one of our favorites from the worldwide leader in sports, Baseball Insider, senior insider. I'll just keep it. You're an executive vice president of insider information from ESPN, Jeff Passan. How are you, Jeff?
I think the last time I played Torrey Pines was my wedding weekend almost 15 years ago, and I'm pretty sure I was 2 over after the first hole.
Okay.
So I think Phil's doing great.
Excellent. Very good. Very, very good. Did you use any pine tar to improve the grip on your clubs that day, Jeff? Or no?
If I used pine tar or spider tack or anything, I would still be absolutely awful. So I did not need to use foreign substances to suck.
Let's get into, I don't know where to get into this. Let's start with where we are now before we get into the why we are now here. Where are we now on this subject matter with baseball and its pitchers and hitters who are on various sides of this subject?
Sometimes, Rich, I like contextualizing things not by looking backward, but by looking forward.
Okay.
And we are 4 days away from one of the most interesting days I've had in almost 20 years I've been covering baseball, which is the day that foreign substance enforcement is going to begin. You have to remember, baseball has not suspended a player for foreign substances in more than 6 years. And all of a sudden, we may have a rash of suspensions coming down because umpires are going to be like TSA agents, checking guys for things between innings, practically running them through sticky substance detectors and trying to figure out on the fly something that baseball for the longest time has just accepted as normal. And it's a sea change, and it's fascinating because there are great points, I think, on all sides. Major League Baseball says we don't want people to cheat. That's a reasonable thing to say. I get it, and I like that idea. But Major League Baseball also has allowed cheating to proliferate to the point where it got so excessive that they felt like they had to do something about it. Players, on the other hand, say, we don't want people to cheat either, but the balls, we feel like after having thrown them with sticky stuff on our hands for as long as we have, it's going to be a really difficult thing to do. And yeah, it is. Like, a tiger can't sit there and wish its stripes away. And players, similarly, can't sit there and say, after years of doing something a particular way, that changing is going to be easy or reasonable or good. So there are a lot of dynamics at play here. And the intersection of them all makes for a really fascinating, rich story.
So let's get into, I guess, what's going to happen 4 days from now. Literally, when a pitcher comes into a game, warms up, finishes the inning, the umpire already probably knows what this scouting report from Central Baseball is on this particular pitcher, right?
Yep.
And then that particular pitcher strolls off the mound. What happens if they feel like this guy actually did something that coming into the game they were suspecting of him of? What happens? Like, how does this work?
I don't even know if it's suspecting necessarily. I mean, the starting pitchers are going to get checked at least twice. That's what the rule says. And relief pitchers are going to get checked as well after the inning they first throw. So umpires, home plate umpire every inning is going to walk over to the dugout and is going to look at the belt, going to look at the pants, going to look at the hands, going to look at the jersey, going to look at the hat, going to look at all these different things. I mean, one guy I'm really interested to see is Craig Kimbrell. Craig Kimbrell's hat is one of the most disgusting things on earth. Like, I would not want to be anywhere near that. It's just got this big, gross splotch right in the middle of the brim. And I'll be curious to see if Craig Kimbrell comes out with a brand new, fresh hat that doesn't have anything in there. And by the way, I am not trying to single out Craig Kimbrell here. I want to make it clear that a vast majority of pitchers in baseball use something to get grip on the ball. And that's part of the issue here. I think the reason that it's blowing up the way that it is, beyond the fact that it is against the letter of the law, is just how widespread it really is. I mean, there are a lot of guys, Rich, who are using something, and considering you have a rule on the book saying that that's wrong, boy, it just makes for an interesting situation. And you don't know how different umpires are going to enforce it. Are there going to be some guys who are real sticklers? Are there going to be some guys who say, that doesn't look like too much sticky stuff, you can go out and do it? Like, what's the line? It's a very arbitrary thing. And the arbitrariness of it makes me wonder whether some umpires are going to get the reputation as guys who will allow a little bit of leeway, whereas others are simply not going to.
What a hot mess, Jeff. I mean, because there's no other way to put it. Hot mess, because it will be, just because there are 30 clubs, 15 games a day, right? And 15 different umpiring units. And thus, there will be what appears to be different applications of the enforcement by nature, that there's 15 different ones, and it will come across potentially as arbitrary and capricious, and baseball can see that coming down the pike. There's no question about that. And so the question I have about that is, why won't they head it off at the pass by sitting down and coming up with a substance that everybody agrees is copacetic, put it on the mound for everyone to see, and forget about it. Set it and forget it. Why can't that be done? Why can't that be done in the next 90 hours? I mean, Garrett Cole last night, Jeff, pleaded for baseball to listen to it. So we know you have the hammer. So why can't that be done with a bunch of smart people who know this is the last thing anybody wants? Everybody.
So I think there are a few things here. Let's start with the substance itself. What is proper? What is right? What is good? What is not cheating but is sticky? It's almost like you're looking for this mystery substance, Rich, that does not exist. Because let's go back to why this has become a problem in the first place. Pitchers started understanding how important spin was. Organizations started emphasizing spin. And I'm sorry, but naturally getting more spin out of your pitches, multiple hundreds of revolutions per minute, is almost a near impossibility. Like, you gain spin as you gain velocity typically, but there's a finite amount of velocity left in your arm before it's going to explode because you're taxing it too much. And so pitchers started understanding, hold on a second, if I use an extremely sticky substance, the one thing that affects spin the most is friction. And that's why they are using stuff like spider tack, which is made by a strong man in order to hold 300-pound Atlas stones, as opposed to 5-ounce baseballs. They're using it because it works. And so Major League Baseball doesn't want to go out there and put something on the mound that helps players essentially cheat. And yet, by treating spider tack the same way that they are pine tar or a combination of sunscreen and rosin, they're essentially saying that those are the same, whereas at the same time, they're trying and have been trying to develop some kind of substance that could be universally used. It's silly and it's illogical to go cold turkey when the league is trying to do something that would not be cold turkey. And so I've said from the beginning, either put a thing of sunscreen out on the mound and allow umpires to watch players apply it, or put a pine tar rag out on the mound and allow umpires to watch players dab at it. Like, there are solutions, and there should be, but a big part of the problem here, Rich, is that the sides just don't get along and haven't sat down with one another to talk about this. And because of that, unfortunately, we end up with this situation.
Jeff, I've been saying over the last 2 days for sure that when I heard what Glasnow had to say and what Cole had to say over the last 2 days, I'm not sitting here and focused on the sticky stuff. I'm saying when you've got hitters saying Central Baseball's not protecting us because they're letting these pitchers do all this stuff with the baseball. And then there's other hitters saying Central Baseball's not protecting us because they're taking that stuff away from the pitchers and they're going to hit us in the face. And then you got pitchers saying Central Baseball's not protecting us because they're making me go cold turkey, and now I've got a rehab, hoping to get back my career in order for the playoffs. All of them basically saying Central Baseball's not protecting us. And what Cole had to say was, we know you've got the hammer. Talk to us. I'm sitting here saying they got a collective bargaining agreement to figure this thing out. There's no way the hell they're going to get this done when there's billions on the table and they don't trust each other to even figure this thing out. That's my real concern, that this is just the latest symptom. Another symptom was last year where they couldn't figure out what the schedule was going to be during the pandemic and damn near had a lockout almost. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm right?
Listen, all of that is right. What has happened here is a function of a relationship that's broken. And they don't trust each other, and they think that both sides are operating in bad faith. And it becomes, unfortunately, a really problematic thing when you have something like this that should have a solution, right? Like, there should be a solution to this.
Yeah.
A reasonable solution, a compromise. But there isn't.
A physical solution that you could put on a baseball. You know what I mean? Why did baseball not deal with this in the off season? Well, I mean, you could see this coming down the pike, right? Or the fact that
I will say this.
How are we here? I know you want to look forward, but I mean, looking back is definitely why we're here.
No. I just wanted to look forward for what's fascinating coming up. Looking back is important. It's imperative to have context for this. And I think when you're looking back, the fault that you can place on Major League Baseball and the teams and front offices as well is twofold. Number one, it's both tacitly and explicitly encouraging players to use this sort of thing. I mean, there are some organizations that hired chemists to go out and make like really good sticky stuff. And the idea that organizations are going to pitchers and saying spin, 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 velo, 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 as opposed to, hey, let's control and command the baseball, like that shows you where the game has gone, and a big reason why you see all the strikeouts you do these days and why the pace of the game has slowed down to a snail's is because of this. But Major League Baseball's known about this for a long time, and for a while, MLB listened to the players and the hitters especially were saying, hey, we want these guys to have substances because they feel like they can control the ball better that way. And there is an element of truth to that. It was just the give us an inch and we'll take a mile, or give us an inch and we'll take a marathon. That's what happened here. You know, baseball made this okay. And because something like sunscreen rosin or pine tar, which has been used for decades, was deemed okay, other pitchers said, well, if that's okay, then what can really juice our spin and make us even better?
And teams were hiring chemists? Jeff, did I hear that right? Like literally there's a scientific wing of a certain Major League Baseball club or clubs to figure out what's the best substance to put on a glove or a hat or a belt or inside here, inside there?
I mean, Rich, this is nothing new. There's I don't know if it's apocryphal. I don't believe it is. Story of a pitcher who will combine. It's called a motor stick, which is a pine tar stick that pitchers use or that batters use, and you see them rubbing it on the handle of their bats. It's a motor stick. Liquid pine tar and Coca-Cola, and they put it inside of a Coke can and use a lighter underneath and melt it. I mean, it's like drugs. And the stuff hardens up, and this is the substance of choice for a number of guys. There was a former clubhouse attendant for the Los Angeles Angels named Brian Harkins, and everyone called him Bubba, and Bubba had some of the best stuff in the league. And, you know, he ended up getting fired last year because of this, and because MLB had sent out a memo saying, hey, if any club employees are known to be aiding and abetting in this, they're going to be held responsible. Well, he sued the Angels in Major League Baseball, and in his lawsuit, he named Garrett Cole and gave text messages. He named Max Scherzer. He named Justin Verlander. He named Adam Wainwright. You know, he dimed on a bunch of guys. And those aren't small names that I'm saying there, Rich. Like, those are guys who are among the elite in the game. And I don't sit here and question their accomplishments or their ability to be great baseball players, but there's a continuum on which you look at the actions of guys and what they're doing, and this certainly is not on the side of the continuum where you think a guy like Ken Griffey Jr. was clean in an era where there were, rampant PEDs. Like, you have to look at pitchers a little bit differently and their accomplishments a little bit differently because of it. And we'll always sit there and wonder, how good would this guy have been otherwise?
I don't know if it's just the century we live in, Jeff. But, we had Rod Carew on last show, and I asked him about this very subject, and he was talking about, he tells Gaylord Perry, back in the day, keep putting on whatever you want to put on the ball, just hit the dry side of it. Like, and we'd laugh like that's when baseball was great. And maybe this is just this different version of that, or that is at least whatever the hell he was putting on. It's not like, weapons grade material that a team is tasking a chemist to find,
This goes back, Rich, this goes back a century. Remember, the spitball was outlawed in 2000 or in 1920 rather.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is loading up the ball has been going back a long time. It's a little different in Gaylord Perry's era because Gaylord Perry was, he was a sinker baller. He was putting wet stuff on the ball as opposed to sticky stuff. He was trying to get less spin on it because with sinkers, the less spin you have, the more the ball dives. Now baseball's become a four-seam fastball and breaking ball game. And the more spin you can get on your four-seam fastball, the higher it stays in the zone. So, the less effect gravity has on it. And the more spin you get on your breaking balls, the more they move. So it's the same thing. It's just a different era. And cheating, I think that's what we take away from this. Cheating is just such a part of baseball. And we've seen a lot of it these last few years.
Before I let you go, Jeff, what can you tell me about deGrom? Anything? What's going on with him in the Mets? I mean, what a stud.
It was, let's put it this way. Nobody knows Jacob deGrom's body better than Jacob deGrom. And the fact that after the game last night, he was talking about how he doesn't feel like this is that big of a deal, leads me to believe that he's going to be okay. But I'm just wondering what's next. Like, is it going to be like his coccyx? Is it going to be like his appendix? I mean, he's had a shoulder, an elbow, a back,
lat.
I mean, it's been a lot this year. And if I just don't want Jacob deGrom's body to pay the price for our collective joy, because man, it's so much fun to watch him pitch. Like he's just the closest facsimile I have. I was not covering baseball. I was in college during this time, but 97, 98, 99, 2000 Pedro Martinez. I mean, he was just so much better than everyone else and so dominant. Every time he went out there, it was like, how are these guys going to hit him? And that's what Jacob deGrom's been. Last night, 3 innings, 8 punch-outs, perfect. And, the body, unfortunately, Rich, is just a fragile thing, whether you are a superhero like Jacob deGrom or a guy who's running a 5.8 40.
I assume you're referring to my 40, and I appreciate you shaving a couple tenths of a second off, Jeff, but I just need to.
Rich, it is your show, and if I have to lie to make you look better, then I'm going to do that every day.
It's okay, Jeff. It's okay. I'm just running cold turkey. I used to have spider tack on it. That's why I ran slower. I'm just running cold turkey. Thanks for the call, Jeff. You are the best. Let's do this again soon.
Call anytime, buddy. Take care.
That's Jeff Passan. At Jeff Passan. I follow him. You should too. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.